You are listening to the FORSCOM Frontline, bringing you to our soldiers on the front lines of readiness. Welcome back to the FORSCOM Frontline. I'm Ashley, and I'm your host. Last week, our episode focused on JRTC, the Joint Readiness Training Center located at Fort Polk, Louisiana. Today, we are continuing that focus but heading farther west to Fort Irwin, California, and the National Training Center to learn more about their mission. I'm joined today by Captain Joshua Mills, Captain Matt Hughes, and Captain Shaun Redden, and they are all observer coach trainers at NTC. Thank you all for joining me today.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you.
So I'm going to give you each an opportunity just to introduce yourselves and what you do. So I'll start with you, Captain Hughes.
Hey, good morning. Captain Matthew Hughes from the gold miner team here at NTC, assistant bow trainer out here.
All right.
Hey, I'm Captain Shaun Redden. Good morning from Scorpion team. I'm a maneuver company primary trainer.
Captain Joshua Mills from Wolf team. I'm a firing battery primary trainer.
All right. So we're just going to go ahead and dive. Well, actually, I'm going to ask you all, where were you before NTC?
For me, Captain Mills, I was stationed at Hood before this. I was actually in the Air Cav Brigade, where I served as a HHT commander for an Air Cavalry Squadron, as well as the FSO prior to that.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, I was an ACS student at the University of Virginia.
Oh.
Before I did company command at Fort Hood.
Okay. And what about you, Captain Hughes?
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
What was that?
No, I said I did company command at Fort Bliss for a distribution company.
Okay. Very cool. So I heard Texas in there a couple of times. How is that compared to California?
So for Texas, at Fort Bliss to Fort Irwin, very similar.
Okay.
A lot of desert, a lot of sand.
See, I've never been west of Kansas. So I grew up in New York, upstate New York, and now I've basically been on the East Coast except for Kansas. So I have no idea what the whole desert thing is about. But it's hot. But it's hot here in North Carolina in the summer too, but I'm sure I can't even begin to imagine the 100 and something degree heat. And I don't think I actually want to.
Right on.
All right, let's go ahead and start talking about NTC. So NTC is and always has been an important place for our soldiers to train in a desert environment. How does the National Training Center focus modernization efforts to ensure soldiers and rotational units are prepared and ready for real-time engagements? And how do you see these adaptive efforts assist in the overall future readiness of the Army?
So I think when we talk about the National Training Center, well, a lot of times we focus on it being in the desert. The National Training Center, it is the desert, but more primarily we're focused on training brigades, full brigades to maneuver their units. And so it's a large space for units to train. So I think when we talk about NTC, that should be one of the things that we think of. Not necessarily the desert environment, but the scope, the magnitude of how big the training center is here. Because that enables our units to train and be prepared for that open maneuver across any kind of terrain.
Well, and sorry to interrupt. When you say that, though, I look at pictures that I've seen on Facebook and that we've gotten from other units, and you look at the tanks out there in the desert and you're like, oh my goodness, like there is a lot of open space there. And it's just not, again, being from the East Coast, something that I'm not necessarily used to.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of people say you can fit the size of the state of Rhode Island into the training center, the training area of the National Training Center.
Wow.
That's how big it is, just to give you an idea. And that's why it's so beneficial for units to come here and actually maneuver their entire unit.
And it provides a unique opportunity specifically for our sustainment soldiers that don't necessarily have the opportunity to synchronize and movement of assets from a division support area to a brigade support area out to the front line. And these just magnitude of distance is tough to replicate for leaders at a home station.
Sure.
We have the opportunity to get after out here.
Sure. Captain Redden, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, they both hit on some great points. I mean, I really think NTC gets after its modernization efforts in like Captain Mills said, like we're maximizing the potential of this desert space here. Replicate what the future of warfare looks like. And so we offer that to the rotational units and give them reps, either in the the systems and technologies that we put out here or are planning to put out here, making it more dynamic battle space. And really, for the three of us on our side, it's about the way we're almost modernizing our observing and coaching in the RTO.
Placed change 1 to cycle 2 and portal on district drive. I say again, change 1 to cycle 2.
Yeah, sorry about that. We've got mass building announcements still running.
I was like, where is that coming from? Oh, I lost my question. Oh, so actually I wanted to just ask you guys, so as a observer, coach, trainer, what does that really mean for somebody who might not be super familiar with NTC or that role?
Yeah, so we all get paired up with a partner equivalent from organizations that come out here and rotate through. And we do pretty much exactly what you said: observe, coach, and train. Not to oversimplify it, but really to look at, see how they're operating day to day from a broad spectrum of them personally to how they're interacting with the rest of their organization and how they're leading, as well as what effect they're having for their organization to make it better, and then just provide feedback to them, in hopes to help them better themselves,
Sure.
both personally, professionally, and better their organization.
Okay. And so how do you support rotational units to build company level readiness in a complex urban fight?
Yeah, I mean, so in the maneuver realm, really, I see kind of it as two parts. First of it is really getting a company commander to understand adjacent unit coordination and then understand what multi-domain operations mean. And so even on an elementary level, if a company commander understands MDO in a complex urban fight, they understand a little bit better what options they have available to them, how they would go about requesting them, and then how they would employ them. So I think between a combination of those two things, that company commander becomes more acquainted with presenting a potential adversary with multiple dilemmas, and so they're able to train that out here in an urban environment.
Okay. Did either of you?
On to what Shaun has said, here at NTC, we add some additional complexities with civilians on the battlefield. The OP4 here is a real thinking unit, the 11th ACR, right? They're a professional opposing force that are free thinking, and the rotational training unit has to figure out how to solve that problem as they're here training.
Can you explain the OP4, like, again, for somebody who might not understand what that term actually means?
So the OP4 is the opposing force for the rotational training unit. They are, I wouldn't even know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a replication of what the world might expect in the future in terms of capability, size, as we.
So I'll ask. So they play the enemy,
right?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and so they adjust what they're doing in that scenario to whatever the unit might need them to practice.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you want to maximize the training value of the RTU. A computer is not going to be able to replicate what the Army might face in the future.
Sure.
So, OP4, Black Horse, replicates that free thinking enemy to focus on the action, reaction, and counteraction that both U.S. forces and a potential future enemy might do.
Okay. And I heard you correctly when you said that they kind of plan what they're going to do, like not necessarily the unit does not know what's coming.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So how does NTC assist commanders in measuring the success of their unit rotations with regard to readiness?
So I'll jump on one here. The through our sustainment world has a lot of just data rich data out there. Not to use the same word twice there, but they have the our GCSS Army system allows us to capture a lot for what's going on with parts flow and maintenance status of our equipment. And here on the gold miner team through NTC and Ops Group, we'll provide just a suite of tools to evaluate organizations' maintenance status, how well their parts are flowing, how well the money's being spent, as well as the shop stock listing that organizations have prior to coming out here, and how well they're utilizing and how much all those parts they're carrying around, how much that's getting, helping them out while they're out here.
Okay. And so what does that feedback and tracking look like? What measures are in place to gauge the strength of an individual unit readiness gauge the strength of an individual unit's readiness as it pertains specifically to NTC?
There's a multitude of different of data that we collect as OCTs throughout the rotation. I'll speak primarily for the fire side. One thing we use to measure the readiness of a unit's fire support element is we time every single fire mission that is sent down. We start the timer with the sensor, whether it's an observer on the hill or a platform. And as soon as they send the fire mission, we start a timer. And then that timer doesn't end until at the gun line, they are firing that fire mission. And that way, we have a clear, complete timeline of how long that fire mission took to prosecute. And that is a very good metric for us to use to evaluate and give them hard, raw data that they can take home and they can improve upon during the rotation, and then furthermore take home. So, in the time that we were at the National Training Center, we were able to improve our fire mission processing from 20 minutes down to whatever we got to while we were training, and we can continue that training as we go home. So that's just one example that we use.
So you kind of made me think, so is there sort of like a initial, this is where you are, and then at the end, this is where you are now?
So we definitely do that on our side. The units come in with their own, with their self-assessment at each level, at each echelon, even down to the company battery troop level. And then as we progress through, we do multiple touch points every single day. We are talking to our counterparts and telling them how we are seeing them progress or things they need to be thinking about. And then as we get towards the end, there's the final after action review. Okay. And there they really see how far they've come from when they stepped into the sand of the National Training Center to when they're complete with their training mission.
Okay. And so we were talking, this is kind of random, but we were talking to JRTC yesterday, and we were talking about, going into the box and soldiers not having their cell phone for 2 weeks. And for a lot of spouses and soldiers, that's potentially the first time where they don't have that contact with their soldier. Is that the same at NTC?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
They put their phones away. So yes.
All right. So I want to just backtrack a little bit. So you all are OCTs in different areas. Can you explain what each one of you actually, what that means, what your area is?
Sure. So again, Kevin Hughes on the gold miner team, which is the sustainment trainers. So we're comprised of both the gold miners and wagoneers that take a look at the BSBs, brigade support battalions, and the DSSB and CSSBs that come out here, both Compo 2 and 3 on the CSSB side, that come out here and train.
Okay.
So I'm on the Scorpion team, one of the combined arms battalion training teams. So we focus on either the infantry heavy battalions or the armor heavy battalions. Me specifically, I'm working either with tank company commanders, Stryker company commanders, Bradley company commanders in some cases, and really helping them on company level maneuver, integration into a battalion or brigade's maneuver plan, and everything that entails. Fighting on those platforms.
Okay.
And then for me, I'm a part of Wolf Team. Wolf Team is we are the fire support trainers here at National Training Center. And for myself, as a firing battery OCT, I am down there at the gun line, observing commanders for either a Paladin, 777, or very occasionally a 105 millimeter battery. And then we do get other other types of systems here as well. But then additionally, Wolf Team, although the actual fire support side of the house and not the FA battalion side of the house, the fire support trainers are embedded. For example, Scorpion Team has fire support trainers within their team. All that data is collected and analyzed within the Wolf Team. And then we, as a Wolf Team organization, conduct those AARs across the whole fire support enterprise for the brigades when they come through.
Okay. So I know you guys have not been to Fort Bragg before, but my house shakes sometimes because of the training here. So I'm curious, what is different at NTC from the sort of training that we hear, and not just here at Fort Bragg, but I mean really any installation you would go to?
Yeah, I think it's kind of how Captain Mills alluded to earlier, is the size and what type of organization we can fit here.
Okay.
To really maneuver, because I absolutely know what you're talking about. Not just at this installation, but others that I've been to. The house definitely shakes, and you're just like, what? Anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the breadth, and while that might be in a more controlled environment on other installations, this one is with a brigade that's planning both managing that fight that's going on, that may be shaking your house, but also managing the next one.
All right. Yeah. I'm telling you, my windows have shakes sometime, and I'm like, oh no. I had a question. Anyways, we'll go back to it. So let's talk about individual readiness versus unit readiness. And why is it so important to focus on both of those things?
I mean, individual readiness is a direct relation to unit readiness. I mean, our soldiers are like literally the most discriminately lethal element on the battlefield. So like when they win, units win.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Here at the NTC, the tough and realistic training that units receive here, with the honest and unbiased feedback that we as observers give to them, helps build that individual readiness, because sometimes we're focused on one section that needs to improve on something, and that could be further boiled down to one person in that section might have missed something that made the section fail or created something that they needed to improve upon. So boiling it all the way down to that individual helps that section, and furthermore that battery company or troop be better, more trained. Sure. When they come out of this fight.
Well, and General Garrett always talks about this, and I always say this, mastering the fundamentals. And it seems like going to NTC or even JRTC is exactly what you're doing there, both individually and as a unit.
Absolutely.
I keep having questions, and then you guys have good answers, and I don't have any. I forget it. So I keep in my head. I keep thinking about NTC, and I mean, we're really talking about tanks rolling down in the desert, and and firing the way you would if you were actually in combat.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
All right. So that I remembered my other question. So right now, we're all of this stuff about Europe and units and soldiers going over to Europe. This is not a hard question. I see you guys looking like it might be, but how do we prepare our soldiers to be prepared in all of these different terrains? Europe isn't a desert.
Absolutely. That goes back to what I said at the beginning, and then what you just mentioned. So here we're able to maneuver a unit in a very large area, regardless of where someone might end up. Being able to maneuver a brigade at a time is gonna prepare a unit, and as well as mastering the fundamentals, like you said. So those two combined is really what we're getting at here.
Y'all looked like I was going to throw you under the bus, and I would not do that. So with so much focus on people, I mean, people is the Army's number one priority. Do you feel that compromises readiness at all?
No, absolutely. I mean, strong people then bring a strong Army together.
Sure.
That's really coming out here and through some tough, realistic training. Units will bond together and build stronger people coming out of the National Training Center.
Yeah, agreed. Do either of you want to add in on that?
No, I think I think Matt hit it right on the head.
So I'm going to ask you, and again, we talked about this yesterday with JRTC, OCTs leaving the CTC and going on to their next assignment, and what value that brings to the next unit. Can you talk a little bit about, and maybe not yourself particularly since you're still there, but these soldiers that are going on to other units and what value they will bring?
I think us as OCTs, while we're here, whether it's for 1 year, 3 years, or if you extend maybe 4 years, we see so many different iterations of training of units coming through, so many different units that we get to observe. We get to see the good, the bad, and the ugly sometimes.
Yeah.
So we can take that forward as we go once we're complete with CGSC, and then we're going into us or maybe some other folks going into additional key development positions. We can take the experiences that we had the opportunity to observe and learn from our observations and take that and improve upon the next unit that we as OCTs or our counterparts go to.
Absolutely. Is there anything about NTC that we haven't talked about that you think is important to this conversation?
I mean, I think NTC is meeting the challenges and expectations of what the Army needs across the board, and
Sure.
they're preparing units to do the Army's mission now and in the future, which is a good thing.
Sure.
And then one thing I was not prepared for when I came to NTC was how great of a community we have here at Fort Irwin. Really, the opportunity to serve here, while difficult at times, our families are really well taken care of here. We have such a tight-knit community, and having that training calendar published, we know we have some visibility of when we're going to be able to spend some time with our family that we may not have had time in the past. Coming from Fort Hood, we were constantly either geared up to deploy or rotate somewhere or being gone.
Right.
And we don't get that here. While we are in the box training and observing units for weeks for 24 hours on, 24 hours off, however it ends up, we get so much time to spend with family here.
Yeah.
It's really great.
Well, and since you brought it up, sorry, Dean, I touched the microphone. Since you professional over here, since you brought it up, the location of Fort Irwin, I think we hear it a lot, and it's really not just Fort Irwin. It's when I was coming to Fort Bragg, everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, Fort Bragg's terrible. You're gonna hate it there." We don't hate it here. Honestly, I have the ocean 2 hours away, and I have the mountains another 2 hours away. And for me and my husband, it's always been, what we make of each Army adventure. And so I know you guys also Fort Hood and Bliss and having already been in the desert and now just moving to another desert location. But what would you say about the geography and where you are at Fort Irwin? Because I do think that a lot of people are like, "Oh, Fort Irwin, I don't want to go there. It's terrible."
Yeah, sure. I mean, but you say that, and it's like you said, the mountains are 2 hours away, 2 hours away, and it's very similar here. A few hours either direction. Get to quite a few national parks, Vegas or San Diego or LA, whatever you're interested in.
Right.
And so that's the bigger surrounding area. And then like Kevin Mills was talking about the community here. I think the three of us live within like 3/4 of a mile from each other.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it's a pretty tight-knit community just on post.
Sure.
Plenty of places for the kids to play and run around and be kids.
Yeah. I think that's so important to continue to reiterate is that, there are the assignments out there where everybody's like, "I don't want to go there. It's got to be so terrible." But I honestly and genuinely think that every assignment is what you make of it. And if you want to be upset about where you're going, it would be very easy to do that. Or you could look at the bright side of things and, you can go to San Diego, you can go to a national park. I mean, there's so many things that you can do. So I really appreciate that you feel that way as well. Okay, well, I know you guys are busy, and I've taken up enough of your time, but I do really appreciate you chatting with me and helping me learn a little bit more about NTC and our listeners as well. I had a lot of fun talking to you guys.
Thank you.